Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Scoops 2024 AFLW Draft Power Rankings. Now, this will be a little bit different to last video that I've done of this. Obviously, it's a few months later. The AFLW draft starts in December, at the start of December, a few weeks after the men's draft. So I thought I would go through my AFLW Draft Power Ranking video. Now, I'm going to stress enough. It's going to be my top 50, and I've got about over 20 names in the mix. I'm also going to go through some list of players that are in next year's draft that you'll be hearing about a lot. If you haven't already, you'll start to hear a lot more about them in the next year. So please subscribe to this channel already if you haven't. But yeah, please subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on the bell for all notifications and smash the like button. We'd greatly appreciate it. Follow my Instagram channel, AFL Info Live, if you haven't already as well. I'll put the channel name there. You can pause the video if you want to check it out. We really appreciate it. And yeah, I want to aim for 20 likes for this video. All right, so how I'm going to do this is I want to tell you every name from 1 all the way to 50 and give some reasons as to why for some of the names. I'll mention some names in the mix that some people may not be talking about, and if they are, not as much as they should. And I'll go through some of them names, in fact, all of them names. And then, as I said, I'll go through next year's draft crop to watch out for the next draft. So at pick 1, I'm sorry, not pick 1. This is not a phantom draft. I want to stress this enough. This is not off what I'm hearing for, like, what type of clubs are interested in a certain amount of players, who's got more interest in one over the other, what positions of players they would prefer. It's not factoring that. It's just purely who I rank for number 1 to 50. Now, some players in this 50 have been injured and haven't played as many games. Some have had breakout seasons. Some have been very consistent at the top level as well. So, yeah, I'll detail them when I get there. So, at number 1, I have gone with Zippy Fish. Now, Zippy from WA, Zippy by name, Zippy on the field as well. Tested really well in the National Draft Combine a few weeks ago. Was like top 5, top 10 in a lot of the testing that they did. She's a proven ball winner. She's quick. She's got good skills. She's a good decision maker. I mean, she had a really good tournament for WA in the state championships as well, and all the other games that she's played for. Obviously, winning the best and fairest in the Waffle W as well at East Fremantle. So she's had a great season, great few seasons, might I add. I was tossing up between her and the next 2 names that you'll hear for this pick 1 spot, or my number 1 spot. So I've gone with Zippy Fish from WA. At number 2, I've gone Ash Centra, who was everyone's number 1 pick for the last 2 years, but Zippy has been around that mark the entire time. But Ash is still, did really well in the state championships for Vic Country, and all the academy sides that she's been a part of. Did reasonably well in the National Draft Combine testing as well, playing for Vic Country for the Gippsland Power as well. Midfielder forward, who's got a lot of X factor like Zippy, and just, always draws the attention on her in terms of, like, the players they know and fear that they got to tag Ash out of the game. I know in WA, the WA game, Sabella Banks was put on Ash Centra in the second half because they know how dominant of a player Ash Centra is. And yeah, overall, she had a great season and has earned this position. At number 3, I've gone Havana Harris from Queensland. Another one, a tall player that has dominated the state championships for Queensland. Her stats speak for itself. Even chipping in the ruck when need be with Georgia Davies, who's in next year's draft. Overall, her work throughout the season speaks for itself. It's done very, very well. Linked to the Gold Coast Suns Academy. So Gold Coast will acquire her through the draft. But regardless, she's a terrific player. Another player like Ash and Zippy, they draw the attention of their opposition, and having insane numbers throughout the state championships for Queensland. and just was a consistent performer throughout the whole season as a whole. Now, everyone talks about those three as the top three, but these are the other players I have in that conversation around the mark as well. At number 4, I have Molly O'Hare, who is also from WA. Molly is a tall player who tested really well also in the National Draft Combine testing. Had a really, really consistent year in the AFLW competition as well. A tall player that can take a really good mark, can play on the wing, has got a decent kick on her, a very elite kick. That's probably one of her strengths in my eyes. She's got speed as well. There's not many tall players that are very quick, but Molly is one of those. And I feel like she would be a great addition to whatever club she ends up joining. At pick 5, I have, like last time, Lily Patterson from the Swan Districts in WA. Represented WA in the state championships, averaged the most disposals in the entire team, averaging 25.5 disposals at 5.5 clearances per game, 5.5 tackles per game. Lily, like last time, as I said, a great player. I had Trent Cooper on, part of the WA female talent program and coaching staff, and he mentioned what a great rise Lily's had, and I've mentioned that throughout the time. Obviously, playing for Swan Districts, coming third in the league, best and fairest in the AFLW competition behind Zippy and Jamie Harkin, who's now at the Eagles AFLW side. Lily's shot up from out of nowhere, according to Trent, and has worked really hard on her running, which has always been a strength. She's an accumulator of the ball, but she does damage with the footy. A lot of people that say about people that are accumulators don't do much damage. Well, Lily Patterson does do that. Great runner, just all-round a good player, and really, really stood out in the state championships for WA. Killed it for Swan Districts in the AFLW competition this year. You could argue was probably the best player in the AFLW competition this season. Just overall, just really did well in the testing. The 2-kilometre time trial, she was in the top 10 among some of these other names, and even beat some of these other names that are in my top 10 right now. So she's had a terrific season, and she would be like the bolter of the entire draft, I would say, especially if she's going to be in this draft range. I rate her really high as a person, as a player, and she's done really, really well and earned this position. So at pick 5, I have Lily Patterson, number 5. At number 6, I have Sarah Howley from the Geelong Falcons, a smaller type midfielder, but, very, very clean with her disposal as well, like Lily is. Just does really well for the Geelong Falcons in the Vic Country side. Again, had a really good state championships, and, probably one of the best players in Victoria in this year's draft crop with our centre, of course, is Sarah Howley, and has earned this position. Another Victorian, Sophie McKay, who plays for the Sandringham Dragons, can play up forward, racks up a lot of the ball, can push through the midfield as well. It's just, really earned this spot in a sling right now. I did see a clip where she mentioned that she's going to be out for a fair few months now, so may impact her arrival at more than likely Carlton as a father daughter pick to join her sister Abby at Carlton. But regardless, will be a great pickup for wherever she goes. As she mentioned in that clip that I saw, that she's happy to play anywhere. But yeah, should be a really good pickup, and had a really good state championships for Vic Country as well. Vic Metro, and had, played really, really well and has earned a spot in the top 10. At number 8, I have India Rashid from South Australia, the first South Australian I have in the top 10, and the only one. But India Rashid has had a terrific tournament for South Australia in the state championships, playing for Sturt in the SANFLW competition as well. Has really stood out. It's got an elite kick on her, leader as well. Is probably, with that star-studded draft crop from SA last year, she's leading the charge this year for the star of this year's SA draft crop is India Rashid, and had a really consistent state championships, as I mentioned. I was at that game where they played one of the Vic sides, Vic Metro, and she had a really good game, as I did see the WA Vic Country game as well. And it was good for me to see some of these players in person, to see all the work that you don't necessarily see on TV or live streams and everything like that, or in articles, which is another reason too why I have Zippy, Molly, Lily and Ash in the positions that I do. And Sophie McKay had a good tournament as well in the state championships. So yeah, India Rashid, I have number 8. And number 9, I have Sarah Pousty from Victoria, noticeable with the helmet. I believe off the top of my head, won one of the awards in the state championships as well. So obviously that's a real honour to win an award like that in the championships where it's filled with all the stars. A midfielder that does really well from Victoria and has earned a spot in my top 10. And number 10, I have Sierra Greaves from Victoria as well, another midfielder who just racks up the footy as well, averaged over 20 disposals in the tournament, in the championships, and had a really consistent year in the Coates Talent League, like Sarah as well, and has definitely earned a position in my top 10. And number 11, from the Bendigo Pioneers, I have Lucia Painter, another midfielder, can play through a few positions, who has done really well this year, had a really reasonable state championships as well, and has earned a spot in my pick 11, or number 11. At number 12, a key defender from the greater Western Victoria Rebels. I have Millie Lang. Now, obviously, like a few of the names I've already mentioned, I've had on my channel, but Millie's also shown her versatility throughout the state championships and playing for the Rebels as well, mainly as a key defender, but even push up forward a few games, playing the AFLW Academy game earlier in the year as well. So it's shown her versatility a little bit, mainly as a key defender, but not only just a key defender that does well on her opponent, but actually gets the ball as well. And that's something in this day and age that you need to do as well. It's very good and well to be able to lock down a player and everything like that, but to be a bit more versatile and do a fair few things on the footy field. And that's what recruiters look for these days. And I think Millie Lang is a perfect example of what a key defender should be for the future. So Millie Lang at number 12. At number 13, the second South Australian player in my list so far is Grace Martin. Now, someone who plays really well for the Woodville West Torrens in the SCOOPS League, really stood up in the state championships for SA. I mean, what's more to say? She had a really good tournament. It was probably one of their better players with India Rashid. She pushed through the midfield. She played on some very talented players in the state championships through the midfield, playing as a back as well. Even pushed up forward a little bit, had a few chances to score some goals. I think she was a real consistent performer in the state championships, and they're the games that you need to do well in. Tested well at the draft combine in the national one as well. So ticking all the boxes there, doing all the right things, and I feel at an AFLW club, Grace could probably play as that inside mid, can push as a halfback, running halfback as well, and a lockdown type defender. So versatility, as I said, is very, very important these days. So Grace Martin at number 13. And number 14, from WA, I have Taya Chambers, a key defender, who I thought, where the team didn't do too well down overall in the state championships, there was a lot of individual players that did very, very good in their role. And Taya Chambers was one, playing as a key defender, with a few of the other girls as well. But I feel like she was the one that stood out in this year's draft crop as a key defender. Even pushed onto the wing late in the tournament, as Trent Cooper, who I've had on from WA, did say that as well. They tried her up the ground a little bit, and she's done really well for herself, Taya Chambers, and has had a really good tournament as well, not only in the state championships, but at Waffle W level for East Freo as well. Now, at number 15, a fellow WA player in Noah McNaughton, who I've made it abundantly clear in that interview with Trent Cooper that I thought Lily Patterson and Noah McNaughton were the two standouts for me throughout the whole state championships. And Noah, as a small forward, can push through the midfield, a smaller type player. She's one of these players, I feel like Noah McNaughton, that she doesn't need 20-odd disposals to have a big impact in the game. And I feel like that's what a lot of clubs want these days. And Noah has shown that through the state championships, popping up for a few goals here and there, setting up some goals as well, like Lily Patterson has done, and done really, really well for herself, and has just shot herself up in my draft calculations. I'd be shocked if she wasn't picked up, not only in this draft range, but just in general. I'd be absolutely gobsmacked. Very talented player. But yeah, she'd be a well-earned person to get drafted. The character of a lot of these players is all very good. In fact, they all are very good at that, obviously. But footballing wise, Noah has that difference that some players don't have, and I feel like a lot of those clubs want players that have that versatility and X factor type in them. Speaking of loves kicking goals and X factors, Georgia McKee from South Australia. I've got a number 16 here. Georgia, not a high disposal getter, but when she's got the ball that something's going to happen. I think she kicked maybe 6 goals in 3 state championships games off the top of my head. So had a really good tournament. Tackling machine as well, can run as well. And again, forward pressure and everything like that. That's what recruiters want. They don't just want you to say, oh, yeah, well, you kick goals. That's great. But they want you to do something else. And Georgia has shown that she can do that in this AFLW competition as well, racking up the goals in there. But obviously in the state championships, popping up with a few goals here and there, and also applying that forward pressure, which recruiters love these days. So Georgie McKee at pick 16. Sorry, I keep saying pick. Number 16. Number 17 from WA, I have Sabella Banks at number 17. I briefly mentioned before about Ash Centra and about her drawing attention. Sabella Banks got the hard task of matching up on Ash Centra in the second half in that WA game in Victoria, which I was at. And credit to Sabella Banks. I mean, she had a great WAFLW competition as well already, and was having some hard roles on big name players throughout the state championships. But that game for me shown why she should and will get drafted. I mean, Ash Century is a star. She had 1 touch in the second half, 1 touch, and the ball was down there a fair bit. And Banksy, in that match day vlog, you'll see all the pressure running with the helmet's very noticeable, like Layla Ferns. But Banksy with the helmet, just hunts and hunts the ball. She doesn't let her opponent do damage. I mean, she doesn't have to have heaps of disposals. Like, if you look at her stats, you might see, average like 8-10 disposals in the tournament, but that's not what we're looking at. She's just, you got to watch the games properly, the tackling, quelling the influence of her opponent. And that's also something that a lot of clubs will want to look at these days. It's not just about the disposals and not just about the goals. And she's earned this position. And I know she's worked hard, as she's mentioned in my interview I did with her a few months back. So worked really hard on her craft and deserves to get drafted. And another one from WA, Holly Britton, the sister of Jade Britton at number 18 from the Eagles. Holly, playing for Peel Thunders, had a terrific season. Obviously, Peel Thunders struggled in the WAFLW competition this year, but she was very consistent. A nice running carry off half back and play on the wing as well, like I said to Jade, and mainly as a half back. And I feel like, again, like I've mentioned a few times already, being at that WA game and watching a lot of the interstate teams this year in particular, or all the teams that are in the state championships, but, following the WAFLW competition a lot closer than any other state league competition, I've gotten to see and know some of these players and see how much they've progressed throughout the year. And Holly's absolutely one that's done that and just done really well for herself. And another one who I thought had a really good state championships off the top of my head, I believe I had her in my All-Australian team for the state championship competition, along with all those other WA girls I mentioned thus far. And she's just had a really good tournament, a decent kick, works really hard, and definitely one to watch in that top 20 range for sure. Holly Britton. Number 19, I've got Emma McDonald, a key forward from Victoria. Gets a bit of the ball, which is important for a key forward. And, of course, kicks the goals. And, that's exactly what you want out of a key forward. And Emma McDonald absolutely does show that. At number 20, to round out the top 20, before I recap the top 20, at number 20, I have Violet Patterson from South Australia, a leader, a tall midfielder, a player that really, really does work hard and does really well, and shown that in the state championship. She may not have had the best state championship in terms of disposal average and everything like that, but when she did have it, she was really important. And for the future of the competition, I feel like she'd be a really, really good selection for not only an SA club, but for any other club that looks at Violet Patterson. So let's just recap the top 20 here quickly before we continue on. So at number 1, I have Zippy Fish. Number 2, Ash Centra. Number 3, Ivana Harris. Number 4, Molly O'Hare. Number 5, Lily Patterson. Number 6, Sarah Howley. Number 7, Sophie McKay. Number 8, India Rashid. Number 9, Sarah Pousty. Number 10, Ciara Greaves. Number 11, Lucia Painter. Number 12, Millie Lang. Number 13, Grace Martin. Number 14, Taya Chambers. number 15, Noah McNaughton, number 16, Georgia McKee, number 17, Sabella Banks, number 18, Holly Britton, number 19, Emma McDonald, and number 20, Violet Patterson. Now let's continue on with the rest of this top 50 that I have here for you all. Right, so at number 21, I have Charlotte Riggs, a tall key defender from South Australia. A lot of tall players from SA and WA are going to have or have already featured in this top 50 list. Charlotte Riggs is a key defender, one that's worked really hard on her craft as a key defender, intercept type defender and mark as well. And that's what recruiters love, those type of players. So I got Charlotte Riggs at number 21. Number 22, I've got Amelie Prosser-Shaw from New South Wales. A very, very good player that's come out of nowhere to some. Amelie's had a great national draft combine as well, tested really well, and really, really good state championships for the Allies side. And a shot up out of nowhere, I feel, for some. And she's gone from being a chance to being a really good chance to be drafted. And she's worked hard on her craft at the combine through the state championships and would absolutely deserve it. Number 23, from South Australia, I have Layla Ebert. I'm a player who averaged over 20 disposals in the state championships for SA. Has, made her mark known in the state championships where you got to perform the most. And she's now shot herself up in draft contention. Lily Baker at number 24. Another one for Queensland who's had a really good tournament. Tested really well at the draft combine as well. Was up there. I think she would have been one of the most consistent performers in terms of the top 5 to 10 finishes in all the testing that they did. And again, yes, you can have the speed, the agility, and everything like that. Doesn't mean you get drafted, but it definitely certainly helps. And her tournament for Queensland in the state championships was really good as well. So she is number 24 on my list. Number 25 from WA, Tiani Teakle. Her sister Julia is a key forward for Puele in the AFLW competition. Tiani is a different type of player to her sister Julia. She's a key defender for WA. Again, another one out of East Freo. I think they had 6 to 8 players in the state championship side at East Freo, along with Sienna Jezewski as well, who I'll talk about shortly later on. But yeah, had a really good tournament for WA in the state championship as a key defender, along with Taya Chambers, Evie Coucher, who will be next year's draft crop, Sabella Banks, Layla Ferns, etc. But yeah, she had a really good tournament and really took a mark on the competition and will not just be known as Julia Teakle's sister, but she'll earn a right to get picked up. Will it be Port Adelaide? Trent Cooper hinted that he wouldn't be shocked if it was Port Adelaide to reunite the sisters. We know how close they are. So Tiani Teakle at number 25. Number 26 from South Australia is Asher Dofa. Hopefully I pronounced that right. I apologise, Asher, if I got it wrong. A player who's had a really consistent tournament for South Australia. And I always thought and heard throughout the year that she'd be a good chance to be drafted in the top range. And I mean, her SA tournament speaks for itself, and it has to be in this conversation around this draft range to be picked up, and is dominating the state championships for SA. As I said, had a really good tournament, so deserves a shot at it. Now, number 27, this is one of the injured players who unfortunately done her ACL throughout not the state championship, but throughout the Sandford W competition, and that's Gemma Charity. Obviously, heard on the podcast early in the year, and she had just moved clubs to North Adelaide from Woodville West Torrens, and it was linked around this time last year as a genuine number 1 draft pick range player. And I mean, her form when she was playing really spoke really highly that she was a really good player and was around that mark. So I would say with some clubs that get scared off of ACL injuries in their draft year, or do we take the risk, or, they may go later than they're probably worth. But unfortunately for Gemma, she just really hasn't had a go at it this year, really at all, in terms of playing games and everything like that. We know her previous form speaks for itself. Personally, I would like to see her get a chance, because it's not only because I've had her on the podcast, but, it's just it's a shame, someone that's in that draft contention for a top 1 or top 5 selection only a year ago, and then to have an injury at the start of your season this year, obviously is a crap feeling. But obviously she's working hard on her rehab and everything like that. And come this time next year, or sorry, early on next year in preseason. Hopefully she's on an AFLW list and gets her chance, because I think it would be a big mistake for every club to pass on Gemma Charity. I feel like she would be a good selection wherever she goes. Obviously can play through the midfield and forward line as well. She did mention about, in our interview, I do remember she was saying about, floating between a few positions, joining North Adelaide and wanting to play a different role, play a bit more midfield and everything like that. So versatility, though, is important. She had at Woodville West Torrens. But yeah, she's one to watch. Now, Sienna Tallaridi at number 28. One to keep an eye out on, a midfielder from the Western Jets from Victoria. One to keep an eye out on. Played in the state championship, did pretty serviceable, but definitely be one that will get drafted. Number 29, a key forward from Vic Metro and from the Eastern Rangers, Georgie Brisbane, who I've had on the podcast as well. Her state championship games to start off the tournament was phenomenal. I believe it was 5 or 6 goals, 2 games in a row. I think she kicked 10 goals in the first 2 games. Georgie is a key forward. They don't grow on trees. They get highly valued a lot more than some of what people say, the bunch of midfielders. But Georgie is one of 3 key forwards, I believe, I got in this top 29 range. So, off the top of my head, actually only 2. So, a really highly talented. Oh, sorry, yeah, technically 3. But yeah, a really good key forward, good person, got a good character. Tested really well in the combine as well. And yeah, absolutely one to keep an eye on. Georgie Brisbane, a key forward from Eastern Rangers. Number 30 from Queensland, I got Nyali Milne. Milne, obviously, she's played a few roles playing in the back line, pushing up the ground a little bit. Had a really good tournament for the Queensland side. People talking about Havana Harris, Georgia Davies, who's in next year's draft crop, and a few other players like that. But Milne's had a really good tournament for Queensland. Again, a bit like Sabella Banks, what isn't one that racks up a bunch of the ball, but, quells the influence of her opponent really well, and does damage with the ball when she has it. So she's one to keep an eye out on for sure. And number 31, so that's Nyali Milne, and number 30. Number 31, we've got Zimmy from Queensland as well. Played for Queensland in the state championships, had a really good tournament through there. Tackling pressure is one of her strengths. Kicking goals is also another. And clubs love players that can kick goals and put on pressure, as I mentioned earlier. So I got Zimmy at number 31. Number 32, I got Mia Salisbury, again from Queensland. One that had a really good state championships for for Queensland, in the state championships for Queensland. Got a decent amount of the ball. Average around the 15 to 20 disposal range in the tournament. I thought was a really consistent performer for Queensland. Obviously, Harris and Davies were some of the main players, but, Mia was another one in that contention. Now, number 33, a player that broke her leg in the pre-season games before the state championships from WA, it's Claudia Wright from Claremont. Obviously, a player that, according to Trent Cribbett, will definitely still get drafted. But I feel like in the position that Gemma Charity was in, that's like, a player that's talked really highly, did get to play the whole WAFL competition for Claremont, unlike Gemma, unfortunately, didn't get to do for North Adelaide in the Stanford W competition. So she got that on her side, I guess, but obviously recently suffering a broken leg a few months ago. Obviously, it will be a rehab process still for a few more months at least, I would assume. But someone that is still a decent player in her own right, if you pardon the pun, right? But yeah, Claudia will still get drafted. A player that's been rated highly and over around the number 33 mark. At number 34, I have Kobe Morgan, a defender from South Australia, tall player. A player who I thought really stood out for SA in the state championships. I'd heard the name Kobe Morgan and that she was a defender and was a really serviceable player. But I thought, in the state championships, the games where you have to stand out the most, she did do that, Kobe Morgan. One to keep an eye on. I would not be shocked if Kobe Morgan went higher than 34. Honestly, wouldn't shock me if she goes around pick 20. I thought she was a really talented player throughout the SA in the state championships. So I got Kobe Morgan at 34. Would quite easily put her like 20. At number 35, I got Ash Patton, who played for the Allies, who's had South Australian ties. New South Wales as well. Played for the Allies. in a side that wasn't that strong. I thought Ash Patton held her own in that side. And a player that was rated very highly in last year for this draft. So another one a bit like Gemma Charity. We just haven't seen enough of her. But for the Allies, she played her part as well. Now, number 36, some people may say this is a steal at 36. It's Grace Baloney, a forward from Vic Metro. Kicks goals, had a really, really dominant tournament for Vic Metro. So you could argue I should be putting her around the 15 range as well. And you know what? I wouldn't say you're wrong if you did that. This just shows the depth of this draft and how even it is. At number 37, I got Georgia Knight from the Vic Metro, a forward from the Eastern Rangers. Someone that loves a goal. And again, doesn't need high disposals to have impact. I believe one of the state championship games, like Georgie Brisbane, she kicked 4 or 5 goals. So she knows how to find the goals, knows how to kick a goal, and loves the goal celebration as well. And number 38, I got from WA, Tash Entwistle, who had a really good Waffle W competition as a defender, mainly, and playing through a few other roles. In the state championships, I thought she was another one that held her own as well for WA. As I said, I watched a lot more of the Waffle W competition than the other state leagues this year, although still been very much across the other leagues. And Tash was a really good performer again for East Freo. As I said, East Freo providing the goods with star players for this year's draft crop. At number 39, Grace Barber from the Eastern Rangers as well in Victoria. One that did really well in the testing in the draft combine, but I feel like she could go a lot higher than this, and she very well might. But I feel like her state championship games weren't as great as what she's shown at Coast League level that she can produce. One of those players that, if she's dominating, you will know that. 39, I got Grace Barber. And number 40, Lulu Field from the Western Jets. A midfielder, a winger that, to be honest, I thought played really well in the state championship. In particular, the one game I was at in person, she was probably one of their better players for Vic Metro. 41 of Daisy Flockhart, who I believe won the Sandringham or was up there in their best and fairest count. One that had a really good championships as well for Vic Metro. Daisy Flockhart is one to keep an eye out on, again, around the top 25 range. Number 42, I got Esha Sherma from South Australia. Again, had a really good tournament for SA, and one to keep an eye on for sure. Number 43, I got Claudia O'Neill. A goal, and one that could easily go higher as well. But that's just one to keep an eye on. I would not be shocked if Claudia O'Neill goes much higher than around the 43 range. But keep in mind, this is not a phantom draft. This is a draft power rankings. A power forward, though, is Claudia O'Neill and loves to kick a goal. And it's a pretty decent distance kick as well. Probably one of the best distance kicks in the competition in terms of distance. Number 44, I've got Holly Egan, the sister of Grace Egan from Richmond. A taller type, a defender from Victoria. A very good player for the Murray Bush Rangers, who I've had on the podcast as well. It was good to speak to her a few months back. Well, I was doing probably more than that, but anyway. Had a really good season for the Murray Bush Rangers. Held her own in that Vic game against WA. And I thought she was really serviceable in that game, in particular late in that game. So she's one to keep an eye on when the draft comes around at 44. So at number 45, I've got Tay Perry from the NT, an X Factor who did really, really well at the draft combine. Broke the record, I believe, for one of the tests that were done. She's very quick, energy, and clubs love players that can run and run and run all day. You see that with Darcy Wilson in the AFL competition for the Saints, just runs and runs all day, and that's what Tay Perry can do as well. And number 46, from the Bendigo Pioneers from Victoria, I have Lexi Gregor, who played some games with a few of her Bendigo Pioneer teammates at the Essendon VFLW side and held her own in that, I believe. And, played in the state championship games for Vic Country and held her own, in particular that Victorian game against WA as well. Number 47, Holly Ridewood who dominated the draft testing. And, I mean, that will get recruiters watching. There's recruiters there, so instantly we'll put her name on the map. Played some games for Vic Country as well, so she's one to keep an eye on for sure. At number 48, Abby Vicino, a player from the Vic Metro side, played well in the Coach Talent League this season for the Oakley Chargers, and has put on a consistent consistent block of games to earn a spot to a chance to get drafted. Number 49, I have Layla Ferns from WA, noticeable with the helmet as well. Layla's had a really consistent state championships for WA and playing through the AFLW competition. She's one to keep an eye on. That wouldn't shock me if she was to be drafted. And at number 50, I have Claire Marnie from Victoria, a player who some would say you should have higher. And again, you can't put everyone in the same position. A really good championships for the Vic side, and earns a spot in my top 50. So let me just put the banner up again for the rest of that list that I just spoke about then. Let's get it back up, shall we? So there is the rest of the top 50 from 21 to 40. I'll keep that up there for a few seconds for you. Then you can pause it. I'll read them out for you. Number 21 was Charlotte Riggs. 22, Emily Prosser Shaw. Number 3, Layla Ebert. Number 24, Lily Baker. Number 25, Tiani Teagle. Number 26, Asha Tafour. Number 27, Gemma Charity. Number 28, Sienna Talaridi. Number 29, Georgie Brisbane. Number 39, Ali Milne. Number 31, Zimmy. Number 32, Mia Salisbury. Number 33, Claudia Wright. Number 34, Kobe Morgan. Number 35, Ash Patton. Number 36, Grace Baloney. Number 37, Georgia Knight. Number 38, Tash Anwistel. Number 39, Grace Barber. Number 40, Lulu Field. And also number 41, we have Daisy Flocker. Number 42, Esha Sherma. Number 43, Claudia O'Neill. Number 44, Holly Egan. Number 45, Tay Parry. Number 46, Lexi Gregor. Number 47, Holly Wrightwood. Number 48, Abby Ficino. Number 49, Layla Ferns. And number 50, Claire Marnie. Now, also, I want to quickly go through some names in the mix and talk about some names in next year's draft crop. Now, some names that you probably just saw on the screen if you were looking carefully that I have in the mix. Kiara Woods is a Geelong Falcon, tall ruck that can play up forward. She played a few games at Geelong's VFW side, hit a few goals, and had like 12 disposals in one of those games. And don't be shocked if she gets drafted this year. I mean, she's had some injury troubles lately, had a bad injury that she detailed in our interview. So if you haven't checked that out, it was earlier this year. She was trying to come back from a foot injury, I think it was the top of my head, or an ankle injury, and had a fair few setbacks and, went for some more advice and got it fixed up. And then again, just had some troubles late in the season. But I mean, if it's not to be this year, it's not to be for players in this position in the mix column. But Kiara Wood's a tall player, rucks forward. Players like that don't grow on trees. And Kiara Woods would not be surprised for me if she was to be picked up. Now, I was talking about the East Freo crop earlier. Sienna Jazewski, a player who unfortunately didn't get a game in the state championships games, but was an emergency in the 3 games. A player that's been thrown in a fair few positions, playing on the wing and half forward, half back. But versatility is very important, and clubs do look for versatility, and Sienna Jazewski does absolutely have that. Now, Bianca Petaro from Woodville West Torrens is a name to keep an eye out on. Georgia Haynes from WA for Peel Thunder. Chloe Gaunt from Queensland in the Brisbane Lions Academy. Zoe Bazanko from the Dandenong Stingrays. Jamaica Douglas from Victoria. Megan Norbury from WA. Sasha Pearce, who with Sienna Hobbs and Gabby Dragg played some games for the SNVFW side. Lavinia Cox, who's got a basketball background. Poppy Schultz, the sister of Matilda Schultz. Maddie Ibrahim, who's played some games for SNVFW as well. Abby Ficino, actually she's in my list, so I don't know why she's on there. Siasa White from the Geelong Falcons. Mecca Morrissey from the Geelong Falcons. Evie Parker from the Eastern Rangers. Maggie Mahoney from Victoria. Sophie Eaton from SA. Mackenzie Williams from the Allies from Tasmania. I probably should have had her in the top 50. Could even go as high as 30, to be honest. Emma Stark, who's an AFLW umpire, who was in a draft year this year, so focusing on that clearly. I've had on the podcast as well. A player that can play on the wing. And for the state championships, played for the Allies and kicked a few goals. In fact, I believe she may kick the most goals for the Allies. I think she may kick 3 or 4 goals in the state championships. And Lucy Boyd from SA and Ava Reid from the Allies and Tasmania. So let me put that list of names back on the screen there for you right here to have a quick look at if you didn't see it before. So there you go. All right, so now pause it if you wish. Now, the next thing I want to go through to wrap us up is just going through some of next year's draft crop. So, you're hearing me give all these names for players in this year's draft crop, but I want to just give you, an understanding of some of the names that you can hear from next season. So, next year's draft crop to keep an eye out on. Evie Coucher, who I've mentioned a few times today, from Pure Thunder, a key defender who dominated for WA in the state championships at 17 years of age, won the MVP for WA as voted the best player in the state championships. She won that same award, the MVP award, last year. Evie Coucher is generally a star of the future for the AFLW competition in 2025 draft. In the 2025 draft, one to absolutely keep an eye on for the pick one in the following year's draft. Likewise, Georgia Davies, the sister of Fleur Davies, Darcy Davies, and Giselle Davies, are all in the AFLW competition right now for the Swans, Suns, and Giants, respectively. Georgia is through the Queensland Academy for the Gold Coast Suns, so another top draft prospect for the Gold Coast Suns, Harris, and then Davies. Eloise Macker at the forward, who killed it as a bottom major for SA, who had on the podcast only a month or so ago. Eloise kicked like 4 goals in one game at 12 disposals, like 6 marks, and did pretty consistent in the 3 games. She's one to keep an eye out on. Michaela Anthony, who I've also had on the podcast from SA, a defender type of agility is one of her strengths. Can take a nice mark, one to keep an eye out on. Renee Morgan, I have to mention some of these WA names as well. Renee Morgan had a terrific tournament for WA as a bottom major, played through the midfield, played up forward as well, and really held her own and put her in good stead into next year. Annabelle Fote, who I've also had on the podcast, Fote, obviously from Queensland as well, had a really consistent tournament as a bottom major, kicking some goals as well, and one to keep an eye on for sure. Imogen Trengove from SA had a really good tournament as well for SA in this year's state championships, the under 18 state championships, one to keep an eye on for sure. Olivia Woolmorans obviously kicked 3 goals, I think, in the tournament, or 2 goals in one of the Victorian games. A tall player who can kick some goals as well. Lucy Greenwood, another one from WA, a smaller type player, midfield forward, popped up for a few goals. I believe she kicked 3 goals in one of the games, and that's great for her confidence heading into next season. Mia Russo, another one from WA, from West Perth. One I feel like didn't get much of a go in the midfield as the star-starter midfield, but I think as the season goes on in terms of the state championships next season, she'll be in there and probably be one of the starting mids. Alana Welsh from Queensland, one to keep an eye on, and 2 from the Allies, Priya Bowering and Michelle Barwin. Played for the Allies, both from Tasmania, the 2 midfielders to keep an eye on. Priya Bowering, I believe, won one of the awards as like the best player for the Allies as well, so that's credit to her. Hope you girls and guys have enjoyed my entire full detailed Scoops 2024 AFLW draft power rankings, not only for my top 50, but players in the mix, players to watch out for the future next year. Please drop a like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below. I would greatly appreciate it. It's great covering the draft in the women's and men's competition. Hope I gave you a lot of insight into some of the players that you may not know about. So please smash the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Thank you all for watching, and the AFLW draft, again, is in December. Let's see how it pans out.